the ships. So this is the part where John Crew and Ben Curtis came out. So let's talk about it. Let's do captains of industry. For captains of industry, we are talking, they came out first and they talked about the construction graph cart. That only can make small buildings. They confirmed that, and then they said it only has 2 small drones. And then they said drones come in at least 3 sizes. Now, it comes in 4 sizes, so we're gonna talk about all 4 of those, right? And it might come in 5, but that is way out there speculation, but I'll talk about the 5th level that I think exists once we get to that part. So small drones, they said small drones can only build small size buildings. Then medium drones, those can build medium buildings at a regular speed. And then they said a medium drone, and this is key here, a medium drone can build small buildings faster. So medium drones can build small buildings, and they build them faster than small drones can. So having the largest drone is great because then you can build all the smaller stuff way faster. So this is the way I'm assuming it'll work, right? So I'm going into speculation territory here. Let's say you can build a medium building at a regular speed, and then you can build a small building at, let's say, twice the speed of small drones, right? So then you get down to the large part, right? Large drones, they can build a large building at regular speed. They can build a medium building at, let's say, twice the speed of a medium drone. And then they can build a small building at, let's say, 4 times the speed of a small drone. So it goes up exponentially, kind of say. Like it doubles, the speed doubles depending on what size you have. So then let's say you have an extra large drone. Now that can build extra large buildings at a regular speed, large buildings at twice the speed of a large drone, medium buildings at 4 times the speed of a medium drone, and then small buildings at 8 times the speed of a small drone. That would be a really cool way to like escalate it, right? So people who have a Pioneer, which of course will have extra large drones, they would be able to still build all the stuff that everybody else can build, and they can build it way faster. So that just makes it, and this is kind of the way that I kind of saw this working. So if you know me, then you know I have this thing about buying the larger ships because I think the larger ships are the ones you can trust the most as far as what they'll be able to do. Not always, but I do think the higher, the larger, physically larger the ship, the more likely you will be able to trust what its capabilities will be in the future. And you're not so much beholden to the qualms and the changings of CIG and what they feel like the gameplay will be on a certain day or another day. So we know, for instance, that the Kraken will be able to, at the very least, hold a certain amount of ships on the top, right? And I think it was like 2 medium pads and 3 or 4 small pads. So I see that as growing. I think in the future that will grow, not by much, but I do think you'll be able to put 1 large ship on the pad of a Kraken. It just makes sense to me. Maybe only certain large ships, but I just think you'll be able to land a large ship on that pad. Maybe instead of landing 2 medium vehicles, you just can land 1 large vehicle there. It just would make sense to me. Now, I don't know if that'll be the case. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. And then maybe it has 2 large pads that can fit every large vehicle, and then they upgrade the small pads to medium pads, and then you could just land small vehicles on the medium pads as well. Who knows? But it's going to be really cool either way they do it. But I can just my mind starts kind of going crazy, right? And one of the things about the drones, I just want to bring the conversation back to the drones. So parallel production is what they talked about, which means each drone, so if you have 4 drones, the number of drones is the number of buildings that can be created simultaneously. So it's not like it takes 2 drones to build one building, but I do hope they make it to where if the other drones aren't doing something, you can have those drones create your building faster. But maybe they max that out so that it's not just like, I'll just have all 4 drones always working on the same building. So maybe the max speed anything can be built at is twice the speed, if you have 2 drones working on it. Or maybe in order to get to twice the speed, you have to have all 4 drones doing it. So who knows if it'll work that way. Just I can see that being a possibility though. Then they actually started to talk about the ships. And you know me, I'm a ships guy. They talked about the Argo CSV. Now, a lot of leakers had already leaked this, but I tried as much as I could to stay away from the leaks. If you join our Discord, we do have a section where people can talk about leaks, but it's more so not because I necessarily support everybody talking about leaks. It's just to give them a section where they can talk about it and not feel bad for spoiling the fun for everybody else that doesn't particularly like to talk about leaks. So yeah, and don't forget, join the Discord. And if you are a part of the Discord and you are a member, I will have to go in and make sure you have all of the access to things you're supposed to, because members are actually supposed to have a certain level of access to the Discord that non-members don't have. Anyway, back to the vehicle. Argo CSV, they talked about the CSV FM and the CSV SM. Let's talk about the FM first. It will have 2 medium drones, so there you are, confirming that vehicles have medium drones. At the very least, we have confirmed a vehicle has medium drones. It will fit in a Cutlass Black and upwards, which is huge. 4 SCU internal storage for construction materials. It has a size 0 shield generator. It comes with base building, and that will be, so what that means is when base building arrives in game, you will have the CSV FM. You won't have it sooner than that. And then it will fit in most places that a Cyclone can fit. So they're basically showing you that it's about the size of a Cyclone, not the size of an Ursa, which is what I would have expected, but maybe it'll be longer or something like that. Who knows? Who knows exactly what it'll have in it? But these things are a lot smaller than I expected. I thought that a vehicle like this would be at least the size of an Ursa. So that's actually pretty cool. Then they had the CSV SM, which is basically like a better version of the Mole, it looks like to me. So it has 4 SCU of external cargo. It can fit different size boxes, adding up to 4 SCU. So it's not just only a 1 SCU box or only 4 1 SCU boxes or only a 4 SCU box. It can also fit 2 SCU boxes, or a mixture of all of those things, depending on, how you fit it in there. And then that will have a size 0 shield generator. And they said the top speed of that one will be 28 meters per second. So I'm assuming that'll be the same for both. But, maybe a construction vehicle doesn't need to be. It says FM, so I'm assuming that means fabrication model. And then the SM is for SCU model or something like, or storage model. Maybe they talked about what those actually stood for, but I didn't catch them saying exactly what those things stood for. So maybe the fabrication model is a little bit slower. Then they brought up the MISC Starlancer build, but I am excited for both those vehicles. Before I go into that, I'm excited for both of those vehicles. I actually bought the SM, and I'll tell you why I bought it in a little bit, because my philosophy about purchasing things has kind of shifted based on the insurance, and I'll talk about that when I get to that section. MISC Starlancer, everybody was excited for this. The BLD. Now there's some drama around this where people are basically they now know that the MISC Starlancer BLD is essentially replacing the Galaxy to a degree. I think it was a little bit exaggerated how much the drama would actually affect things. It all happened over the course of 5 hours on the same day. So I'll talk about it a little bit, but I won't get too deep into it. Let's first talk about what the build has, and then we'll go into that little drama section. The Starlancer build allows you to build up to large structures. So it has 4 large drones. Now I want to differentiate this. The Argo CSV only has 2 medium drones. It does not have 4. But the build has 4 large drones. So there's still room for something that can have either 4 medium drones or 2 large drones. And I would see whatever that smaller vehicle is as having 2 large drones. And that's what I actually think the Galaxy will end up having. I think the Galaxy will actually only end up having 2 or 3 large drones. And that will be the difference between the Starlancer build and the Galaxy. Or maybe it has 2 large drones and 2 medium drones, because that would make a little bit more sense to me, rather than it just having all the drones be 4 large drones. It would have 2 large and 2 medium. But I don't know if it's physically smaller than the Starlancer. If it is, I'll put that up here and it'll say smaller. If it's smaller, it'll say larger. If it's larger, I'll look that up later. But whatever it is, it has 4 large drones. It has 2 16 SCU capacity filler stations. In total, it has 128 SCU of capacity. We still don't know how much SCU will be required per building, but if they're building this with a 128, if I can build 4 things at a time, I would say 128 SCU is at least enough to build 4 buildings, right? But here's the thing. It has 2 16 SCU capacity filler stations. So both on either side. So if you add that up, that's 32 SCU of capacity. So my guess is to build a large building, it requires 16 SCU per building at the very least. Now, they could be, maybe some buildings require less, some buildings require more. But let's say at the very basic level, 16 SCU per building, right? So 16 SCU for one large building, 16 SCU for another large building, and then you have to refill, and then you get 16 SCU for another, and then 16 SCU for another, right? So if we're doing the math, that's 64 SCU. So that would be 4 buildings, right? And if we're doing more math, we double that again, and we have 8 buildings if you use the entire SCU capacity of the Starlancer build. So 8 buildings to me screams full base. If you have 128 SCU with you, you can do a full base. But that also seems a little bit like too much. It seems like it can do a little bit too much with that. So again, using common sense, I'm gonna go with a little bit less than that. I'm gonna half that, and I'm gonna say that I think it's 32 SCU per large building. And again, it could be slightly more, slightly less. Maybe it's 24 SCU, something like that. But I would say 32 SCU per building, because that makes it seem a little bit more realistic. Like, you got 4 buildings, you got 4 drones, and each drone can build 1 building using the full amount of capacity you have. So you have to go refill at least once to get your full capacity of building, or you have to already have a bunch of SCU already sitting there for your construction project. That's what I think. I think it'll be 32 SCU per large building, and maybe it'll be 16 SCU per medium building, and then maybe the small buildings can go all the way down to 2 or 4 SCU. That would make sense to me. I would love to see it work like that, and then maybe it's 64 SCU per extra large building or something like that. And maybe there's like some ship that's gonna have in between, that's gonna be in between the Pioneer. We'll talk about where the Pioneer is, but maybe there'll be another ship that's in between the Pioneer and the build. And it could be that the Galaxy is that one. Maybe the Galaxy ends up being the ship that's higher than the build. Now, I don't know if we got a cost on the build, but if it costs more, if the Galaxy plus that module costs more than the Starlancer, I would expect that it's the larger version. It will be able to do better, which would mean you would probably get 2 large drones and 2 extra large drones, or you'll just get 2 extra large drones inside of the Galaxy, which would effectively make it better in a certain way. Or maybe you get 2 extra large drones and 2 medium drones, right? So, like, you know, because that's what it seems like the Galaxy is, like a range. It has a range of things it can do. So you still get 4 drones, but you can't fit 4 extra large drones in that thing. So it could be that, or it could just, maybe it's 1 extra large drone and one large drone. Like, I don't know how that would work. But you can imagine it having, you know, a better capability of the Starlancer build if it costs more if you get the Galaxy plus that module, which I do think it will cost more. So I think that's the more likely place that the Galaxy ends up. And if I had to guess what it would have, I would guess that it would just have 2 extra large drones and allow you to build extra large stuff. Now, that might be taken away considering the drama. So let's talk about the drama a little bit. Basically, what John Cruz said, well, let's start back with what Todd Pappy said. In CitizenCon 2023, near the end, Todd Pappy basically said the Galaxy will be able to build large structures. Fast forward to, I think it was maybe like 4 or 5 days ago now, as of the watching this video, as of the release of this video. Then John Cruz basically said, we're not currently planning on making a construction module for the Galaxy. He said, even in that, he said, it doesn't mean we won't plan on making one, but currently there is no active plans to make one. Like, there's no concept, there's no anything. It's just a thing that Todd Pappy said. He didn't say that part about it being a thing that Todd Pappy said. Here's the thing. The reason I wouldn't get mad at that is because All he said is currently it's not in active development. He didn't say we're never going to make it. And but the part that he did say that bothers people, and I do understand that this part bothers people, is he said, unless it's in game, treat it as speculative. Now, yes and no, John Crew. I agree with you to some extent. Like if you say something, we shouldn't treat it as stone, but we should be able to treat it as like you announcing this means it's going to be in game to some extent. Now, we can't determine how you will implement it or when you will implement it or what the veracity of the statement is. But if you say something on stage, we should be able to trust that what you say on stage is what you're going to do. Now, like I said, you could do it a different way than you initially planned, but that's different than saying this is going to be in the game and then saying it's not going to be in the game, right? Like for instance, I'll talk about this later, we mentioned the Pioneer, right? And it had this cool arm that swung out, but they took the arm out and now it no longer has that articulating arm, at least in the current version of it that they're planning to do. So you took something away from that ship. Now, I don't think anybody bought the Pioneer just for its ability to have an articulating arm, and actually their reason for taking it out makes sense. It would take up way too much space, so on and so forth. But you did take that out. It was a reason that people bought the ship. You know, it could have been a reason people bought the ship, and then you took that away from it. But the thing is, you never promised that that particular thing would have any features, and you never promised it would have an articulating arm. You just said all these things are subject to change, so on and so forth, right? But what we got is actually better than it having the articulating arm, because your reasoning was super solid on that. It would just take up space. You would need a much larger area to land, and the way we're doing base building, we don't want your ship to take up all that land, so on and so forth. So people are okay with the change, but you still delivered a Pioneer that can do everything you said it would be able to do, right? Except articulate an arm, which is not really relevant. But saying that a ship like the Galaxy is going to have something and then saying it won't, that is completely different, because you're now saying we said something was going to happen and that's no longer happening. That's much bigger than saying you won't have an articulating arm, but your ship will still be able to do the same thing. People bought the Galaxy because it can do construction. I know, because I was one of them. I bought the Galaxy right after they said it might have a construction module. I didn't care about it having a manufacturing module. I didn't care about it having most of the other modules it had. I cared about it being a step down from my Pioneer when I didn't want to take my Pioneer places. So I bought one. But since then, I've realized I don't need one, so I got something else. But the point is, it was a reason I bought one. So we can't move forward with this idea that if you say something on stage, it's simply speculative and we can't go with it. Now, I say all that to say, he said that, and then he fixed it, I think, within 5 hours, and then he fixed it again, basically saying like, I know my first comments didn't come across the way I wanted them to, but I'm not saying that none of this stuff will ever happen. I'm just saying we don't currently have plans for it. And then he came back again and basically confirmed that the Galaxy will have the thing that he just said there's no plans for, in order to kind of, it seems like, assuage the community that was starting to get upset and thinking that CIG wouldn't keep their word on things. He did that all within 5 hours. The part I didn't like about the drama is that a lot of people kind of immediately reacted and got upset and started canceling their game subscriptions and doing all types of stuff. I think it was a little bit premature. Not saying you were wrong for doing it, I just think it was premature, because if you wait and you verify and see if CIG changes things, then you wouldn't have to do that, right? So like, you express your concerns. Say, hey, CIG, I don't agree with this. I think you should change it back to the way it originally was. And then you wait for CIG to reply. If people did that, which is like the thing you do when you are a patient human being, which is the thing you do when you understand that constructive criticism can work sometimes, you wait at least 24 hours to see if maybe they change their mind on it or something. But to immediately go from 0 to 100 and saying, we hate Star Citizen now, that I think was a little bit extra. And that's the part where I was like rolling my eyes at people. I get being upset. I don't get the speed at which you reached your highest level of upset. That, I think, You know, maybe some people need therapy. Maybe some people are a little too invested in this game. I get it. I spent $10,000 on this game, so I know about being overly invested in the game, but I didn't freak out like that. So if you spent more than 10,000 in game, I guess I can't really talk about. Well, I guess I'm more than that. I'm like 11,000 something in game now. But like, if you spent more than that in game, then I'm not in your shoes. I can't speak to your level of frustration. But if you spent less than that, I've been in your shoes, so I don't get where your frustration is coming from the same. And that's all I'll have to say about it. I probably won't mention it again. It was fixed. It was an issue, then it was fixed. Get the Starlancer build if you want to do large structures in game. Hold off on the Galaxy. This would be my thing would be keep your Galaxy if you planned on using more than one. And this is the guidance that I gave in my review. If you remember, in my Galaxy review, I said the only reason you should get a Galaxy is if you need at least two of the things that will be modules for it. If you don't need at least two of the modules and you only bought it for construction, you only bought it for refinery, you only bought it for medical, you don't need that. You need the ship that's for. So if you only bought it for construction, you needed the Starlancer build or the Pioneer. If you only bought it for refinery, you need an Expanse or an Arastra. If you only bought it for medical, go get an Apollo. Go get, like I mentioned this in the review. This was before they had the whole debacle. So my guidance was right, folks. Like, go watch the ship reviews. You know, I'm not telling you anything crazy on those ship reviews. I'm telling you these are the purposes of these ships, and this is kind of what you should go for. Now, you don't have to listen to me. There's other people that did reviews. There's other people that are smarter than me that have said things about these ships. I'm just saying, if you were wondering what the value is of watching my ship reviews, there you have it. You would have dodged all of this drama because it wouldn't have mattered. They would have came up and they would have said, there's currently no plans for construction. You would have been like, doesn't matter. I need my Galaxy for something else as well. And you would be like, you know, that sucks, but like, it's not gonna change whether I need my Galaxy or not. But if you only bought it for that, you would be like, oh, I need something else. But if you listen to good old Billionaire Ninjas, you know, you would know that it's not good to just have that ship for that one purpose. All right, let's talk about the build. We didn't actually go in all the way. We said it can build up to large structures. We said it can have 4 large drones. We said 2 16 SCU capacity fill stations. We know it has 128 SCU capacity. It is 83 meters by 52 meters by 16 meters, which is bigger than the Retaliator and smaller than the 600i. So if you're wondering where it is in size, bigger than the Retaliator, smaller than the 600i. 600i is a very big ship. It has 2 size 2 power plants, 1 size 3 shield generator, which means you can't take the shield generator out. We know that now as far as the September rework that happened. Once you get to size 3 shield generators or size 3 parts, you can no longer just remove those from the ship. They are without some help of some kind. Like, you can't personally take them out. It has 2 pilot controlled size 4 guns and then 16 pilot controlled size 3 missiles. It has 2 remote turrets. It has 2 size 4 guns on each turret, so they're not quad turrets. And then it comes with base building. So we are gonna get the construction vehicle, the CSV FM, and we're gonna get the build when base building comes online. So we're getting both of those, you know, with tier 1 base building. They said they're not doing tier 0 anymore. I don't know if that's starting after this stuff that's coming up or starting now. I'm gonna assume it's starting now. All right, so there you have it, the build. You can't purchase it yet. I think you might be able to pre-order it. I haven't found it for pre-order, but drop a link if you see it. I haven't found it. I don't think they'll sell it until IAE, and that just would make sense. Now, the 2 you can build, the other variants, the TAC and the MAX. These are the Starlancer. So you have the Starlancer build, which is the base builder, the Starlancer TAC, which I'll talk about what I think that is here soon, and then the Starlancer MAX. So I think all of these are just meant to be upgrades from their variants below. So the Starlancer build doesn't have a variant below. So we could just say that's the upgrade from the base Freelancer, so to speak. The Starlancer TAC seems like an upgrade from the Freelancer Miz. And then the Starlancer MAX, obviously an upgrade from the Starlancer, or the Freelancer MAX. The DUR, it doesn't look like they're doing above that. So maybe the DUR is just the DUR, like there's no other version of that. Maybe there will be, maybe there'll be a Starlancer DUR. or maybe a Starlancer base. I don't know. I didn't see that. It looks like it's just the TAC and the MAX. Let's talk about the TAC first. This might be the Redeemer replacement, right? So the way that if you're looking at Star Citizen from a negative angle, you might say, well, they nerfed the Redeemer and now they have the Starlancer TAC, which seems to have similar qualities to the Redeemer. I don't think so. That was my first thought, but then when you see what this has, it is so much, it would have been, even if the Redeemer was still exactly the way it was, I think this would be a better vehicle than the Redeemer. Let me tell you why. It's the actual size of the way the Redeemer responds, right? So the Redeemer moves like a boat. It's so slow to turn, go to pitch and yaw. It is so slow, but it's not size equivalent to its speed movement. It should be faster than what it is because of how small it is. The TAC is bigger, but it might end up moving the same way as the Redeemer and make more sense to move that slow because of what it has. It has a Fury hangar. It has dual size 5 man turrets. So it has 2 size 5 man turrets. It has 2 of them. They're manned though. I would prefer them to be remote, but you know, me and remote turrets, we go way back. Man turrets, they're good, not great, but it is what it is. It has a Fury hangar, dedicated. So this is built to fit a Fury. You can fit other things obviously that are the same size or similar size as the Fury, but it's built-in Fury hangar. The Redeemer doesn't have that. It's not even close to having a hangar. It has 4 drop seats, at least 4 drop seats. They didn't specifically say, but if you look in the image, it looks like there's at least 4 of them. It has a habitation area, which the Redeemer had a habitation area, we'll give it that. It has the same weapons as the build, but it has size 5 man turrets. So that's the addition. So it looks like all these will kind of have the same weapons, except this one, they'll either add weapons or take away weapons or whatever it is. Maybe this area is in the build, the size 5 man turret area is where the construction area is. So like maybe instead of those man turrets, you get the construction things to control the drones, the construction drones. Then it says it has the same parts as the build, but it has a second size 3 shield. So 2 size 3 shields. So that's gonna matter. Then it has 2 tier 3 medical beds. This is what the massive distinction is from the Redeemer. Redeemer doesn't even have space for 2 medical beds, let alone a medical bed at all. So that's huge. Then here's the second biggest thing. 96 SCU of cargo can fit in this thing. 96 SCU of cargo, 2 tier 3 medical beds. It is a much better ship already than the Redeemer. It just is. So far, from what I can see, I would rather have this than the Redeemer. We don't have this in game yet. They didn't say the release date, but I'm assuming that this is coming out during IAE because you can already purchase it. I think I bought an upgrade to it. I don't think I'm particularly interested in it, but I think I bought an upgrade to it just so I could do like a giveaway for it. I think it'll probably be my November ship. So if you're watching this, my November ship will probably be either the TAC or the MAX. We'll see. I don't know which upgrade I bought. Maybe I bought one for the MAX or maybe I bought one for the TAC, but whichever one it'll be, it'll probably be the more expensive of the 2. Or maybe I'll buy both and then let you choose. It may be like if you want the TAC, then that's what I'll give away. I'll let the person who wins maybe decide. We'll see, but it'll either be the TAC or the MAX that I'm giving away for November. So there you have it. It's one of those 2. There's if you're watching this long video, then you already know which vehicle is going to be given away. There you have it. But let's talk about the MAX. It has 2 support stations for remote turrets, so I'm assuming those are going to be where the tractor beams are going to be at. It has 4 crew, so 4 escape pods. It has a ladder and a lift. It has a habitation area, 4 separate rooms for crew. They actually showed a nice little video of this, and I think that's kind of going to be the way it is for everything, that you have 4 separate rooms for crew rather than having a bunk area, because it's built for 4 crew. I think that's how it's kind of going to be. But the TAC might need extra people. I'm not sure. I think 4 crew is good for this size of a ship, so I hope they don't go too crazy above that or below it. 4 bedrooms, I could see them kind of standardizing that too. And you know how I feel about 4 beds. You know how I feel about it. I think that's the perfect crew size. I think most people will be able to find either 2 friends or 3 people to play with consistently. Once you start getting to 5 crew and more, that's when things get a little logistically crazy. It has 2 extra lifts for 2 decks, which means, and it's kind of like a crew lift where like there's 2 extra ways to get to each deck. So you don't have just that one elevator. you don't have that one area. So I can imagine somebody assaulting your ship and then they don't know the interior of this ship, you going down a deck and then following them up the elevator, getting behind them and boom, blowing them up with a grenade or something. Like, so I love thinking about this type of stuff. Then there is the 224 SU of cargo. So it can fit an Ursa below. So it can fit an Ursa in it, and it carries 224 SU of cargo. And I think the cargo is split. So it's like it's got this upper area and lower area. So it can fit 224 SU of cargo and a vehicle, but I think it's split. One of the things I'll say here, it has a full armory and with suits and weapons, and it has the same stats as the BLD, except it has 6 extra thrusters. One of the things I'll say is I was a little bit underwhelmed by the 224 SEU of cargo, because a Raylan is smaller than this, and it can carry 320 SEU, but it's not internal storage. So I don't know. I was a little, I mean, I have to still do a review on it, but 224 seems a little bit less than I would expect it. I would have expected around 300 SEU, but maybe there's gonna be another level to this or something. I don't know. It just seemed like a little bit less than I would have expected. I think 300 would have made more sense to me. It has an armory. Maybe it's a little faster, and maybe it's trying to fill a gap that I'm not thinking of right now. It has 4 crew, and maybe if it had more SEU, it would require more crew. So I don't know, but we'll see, you know, and I'll do my review on it, and you'll be able to be like, all right, I get where this fits, or maybe it'll be a terrible review and it'll be like, not really a fan of it. So we'll see. But right now, I'm thinking the best of the 3 is the build, the second best is the TAC, and the third best is the MAX. If I had to give them a early score, if you're like, I need a score right now because I don't know when these will stop going on sale, which my next video should be reviews on these, so it should be coming out soon. But I'll give you a quick score just in case, because I don't want them to run out before you can buy them. My quick score, meaning this is not my final score, you still need to go and watch the review. My quick score on the build is going to be an 8. My quick score on the TAC is going to be an 8. And my quick score on the MAX is gonna be like a 7. So I think all 3 are worthy of purchase, depending on what you need so far. So at the very least, what I would suggest is getting a upgrade to these, so buy the CCU. I think the best of the 3 so far is the build. I think because that serves a specific purpose. And one of the reasons I think that is really important is because the build itself, it's the dedicated version of what the Galaxy will be able to do. Remember, the Galaxy is a modular ship, so it can do those 4 or 5 different roles, but it won't be the best at doing those roles necessarily. There will be a ship that's dedicated to each one of those roles that will do it better. And so I think this is the one that's dedicated to construction. I think if I owned a Galaxy, I would prefer to have the build right now, just because it's the dedicated version of it and of what it can do. Now, one of the things that holds the ship back, I think, is going to be the slot. I don't like the mail slot. Ben Curtis and John Crew both said that they love the mail slot, so I don't think it's going anywhere. But I think it's the reason why MISC will never really reach my favorite manufacturer, no matter what ships they build, because I'm never going to be okay with the mail slot. I just don't like it. Now, I'm not saying you're gonna ever stop doing it, but I know a lot of people that are in that same boat where our visibility out of our ships is huge to us, and I just can't get down with MISC that much because of that. I still love the Endeavor though, so, you know, hey, it is what it is. Yeah, the TAC is, right now, if I'm in the market for a Redeemer, I would be heavily looking at the TAC. And the MAX is a little bit of a weird one. Do you specifically need that type of cargo, the 224 area? Now, I can see that filling a gap, because I can't think right now of a lot of ships that have $200 or 200 SCU cargo limits that are cheap, right? So I know the A2 has 216 SCU of cargo, but it's the A2, it's $750. Even if you get it cheap, you know, and you could buy it for really, really cheap, you know, and you have all these great CCUs to it, you're still probably looking at between 300 and 400. I've met people who got it for cheaper, but I'm just saying you're probably paying a little bit more for that, because the Max, of course, if you do the CCUing right, you can get that for even cheaper than that. So yeah, so it might fit something that it might fit a space that I'm not seeing. One other thing I'll say about the TAC though, even if you don't necessarily need this ship as a fighting ship, the fact that it has two medical beds in it, along with the hangar, I would love to assault bases with this. And it looks like with where the size 5s will be, they'll be kind of on the lower end. It looks like it'll be better for assaulting bases and stuff. So I don't know, but maybe search and rescue and stuff like that. I can imagine bringing one of these with me just for those tier 3 medical beds. I think it will end up being a really good ship for pirating too, because I think you'll be able to take a few things, pop it in the back. You'll be able to put an Atlas inside of there to actually take cargo and put it in. And because it's 96 SU a cargo, it's not like it's going to take you forever to do it. So I see some things for it. And then my baby, the Consolidated Outland Pioneer, they reconcepted it. It has been updated for building mechanics, because now they know what those building mechanics are, and it has been updated to current metrics, which means it grew. So it is a self-sustaining mobile base builder. We'll talk about what that means. It means it has onboard medical, which it did not have originally. It will allow crafting, which means we're talking item fabrication and building construction. It will be able to refine things, which it did not have before. At least, I don't think they mentioned that before. And then it will be able to do extraction, which is huge. It can use its legs to pull resources out of the ground, like its legs are extractors. So as soon as you land this thing, you're already base building, because you're landing it somewhere that's resource rich and you can pull things out of the ground into it. Obviously, you might not have the legs land on every potential resource, but you can just see how amazing that is to be able to pull things out, immediately have them refined, and immediately have them available for crafting and stuff like that. That is already cool. And then you can have a ship in your hangar that can do the rest of the refining and stuff. We don't have an extraction ship, so to speak. We don't have a ship that can pull things out of the ground, but I can imagine there being a vehicle in the future that can do that. I can imagine there being a ship in the future that can do that. But either way, the first thing you do, you bring enough stuff to build extractors the way in the places that you need them, and then you could just live off the base, because the base now has everything you need to stay on the base, which I thought was a little weird that the Pioneer didn't have Pioneer-like things, where basically all I should need is the ship. Now, you might need some defensive forces and stuff to make it to where you want to go, because people are obviously going to be trying to steal this ship, because it has 4 extra large drones. So that means you can craft the largest structures. We'll talk about that a little bit later. It's controlled by one console. That means one person controlling all 4 large drones, and it has an exit via the roof. It's 247 by 133 by 53. It was 200 by 135 by 30. So it's not twice as large. It's about 20% bigger though, and that is much bigger. And of course, as I mentioned before, it no longer has the articulating arm. I don't particularly care about that. I thought it was a cool thing. I'm kind of sad to see it go, but I don't particularly care about it. It's not going to change whether I like the ship or not. And they changed the way it looks a little bit, where it kind of has this like kind of command tower structure looking thing at the back now. It kind of had that before, but now it's like very obvious that it's like a command tower where you can see everything. And I think they're changing the way the internals look, where I think it was going to like build things outside and just place it like this. Whereas now I think it's going to use the AR mode, and the ship it'll just be, the drones will put it where it needs to go. And I think the internal structure is now going to be, you can build up to a certain size ship. Maybe it's medium. I can't remember. I can't remember what size it said you can build. But I would guess if you can build a Zeus in there, I would guess Zeus is a medium ship. So maybe up to medium sized ships. But I think you could build large ships because of what we'll talk about later. So I'm going to assume large ships, actually. I will assume large ships. But let's keep going. The interior. So the bridge is at the rear. That'll have the hollow globe, a remote turret console, 3 seats for controlling the ship, engineering at the rear of the bridge, with 3 consoles, and then it'll have manned turret access to those above the bridge, and then it'll have the escape pods. So that's where your bridge is at, you know, that top level. The bridge did seem a little bit small, but looking at the crew requirements, maybe it's because everybody else is supposed to be other places and they're not all supposed to be sitting in the bridge. So we'll see, but it does have manned turrets as well. So it has remote turrets and it has manned turrets. I'm still waiting to see what the final page will be. I didn't look at the page. So if I find those stats before the video, I'll put them up here. If you don't see anything, that means I didn't find them or it's not available. So the cargo area is now 1,000 SU, which I think it grew from 200 and something, or maybe it was 400 and something. Maybe it was 400, but whatever it is, it massively grew. The cargo area has its own dedicated cargo lift, so you're not sharing a cargo lift with the vehicle, which can now go down, which is very cool. I'll talk about that later. Fabrication control room for larger vehicles and ships. It said larger vehicles and ships, but so I'm assuming large. Then it has a small fabrication hangar where things can be built completely on board. So maybe it can only build medium ships, but it can build a extra large fabrication hangar where you can build large ships. That's what I'm assuming. That makes a little bit more sense. Maybe the biggest it can build on board is medium, but it has everything to where you could end up with a larger ship. It has a small fabrication hangar that can be built completely on board, a small landing pad, and that's the one that we always saw on the outside of it. That can now sink into the ship. You can load and unload from it and then push it back out, and then it can go where it needs to go. That also means low-key pocket carrier, right? So whatever you can land on that, you can bring into the ship, close it up, and then log out of the game, and that ship goes with it. So really kind of cool, actually. It has all capital components. It used to have a mixture of everything. Now everything is capital. Engineering is at the rear. It has a very large habitation area. They made it a point to say it was very large. Every crew gets their own room, and I think this thing has 8 crew, if I'm not mistaken. If not, I'll put it up there, what the actual amount of crew is. These all open. The little area where it can open up, and you can decide how much privacy you want. So it can be like a closed thing. I think it's like a bunk with like a little desk, a chair, and like a TV or a screen. It doesn't necessarily have to be a TV. And you can close the whole thing up, and then you have your privacy, or you can open it up if you're just kind of sitting in there hanging out and you want to be able to talk to people. Very cool. Has a whole medical area, like a dedicated medical area. It has crafting machines. Now it has 4 of them. They can all operate simultaneously, and that is next to the cargo bay. Those are crafting machines. Those are not the base building machines. Then it has a crafting area, which has blast shields. So when you open that, it reveals what was built after you complete it. Then it has a ramp to drive out vehicles and a top to open up for ships. So if that's what you crafted, then there's your vehicle, can just drive out on the ramp. And then if you crafted a ship, it can fly out the top. Then it has ground extractors on the feet, which I mentioned before. Those will be for liquid, solid, chemical, all of those things. It'll be able to take all of those things out. But I think they're starting at tier 1s now. So I think we'll get tier 1. And then whenever we get tier 2, that's when we'll get this ship, because that's kind of what they said. It won't ship with the initial version of base building. Then they talked about what it can do. It can complete an entire base building game loop. It can extract the resources, refine the resources. It can craft the tools, craft the components, build the vehicles, build the ships, and build the buildings. So that's what your Pioneer is for. It is officially a full loop in and of itself of a ship, which is what I think that sings to my heart. Part of the reason I switched from the Galaxy to the Arastra was because the Arastra fills the loop. I can mine the ore, I can refine the ore, I can sell the ore or use the ore, right? Or use the refined material that I got from it, right? Not just that, I can refine other materials now, because now we know that we'll be able to refine other materials with those refineries. So now it may be that maybe the Arastra's material are limited, like you can only refine ore with the Arastra's refineries, but I feel like that would be a weird limitation. And if that's the case, then maybe it will make more sense to get the Galaxy. Up to this point, I'm believing that you can refine anything in that thing, because it just wouldn't make sense to limit it that much to me, especially if we're talking about a $500+ ship. Then they talked about vehicles coming in the next year. The Crusader Intrepid, they said that's coming before the end of the year. They said the Crusader Advanced Starter. That's basically what it's going to be. It's going to be a Crusader Advanced Starter. So we know we're getting that before the end of the year. I'm guessing IAE. The Mirai Guardian is coming before the end of the year. That we know that's going to be a heavy fighter. Remember, these things are coming before the end of the year because we have some more to talk about when we get to the rest of the ships that are on this list. The Polaris, they said that's coming at IAE. So we know these are 3 ships so far they've mentioned that are coming before the end of the year. Then they said the Legionnaire got pushed to early 2025, and they did that so they could align it with hacking gameplay. So we know we're getting gameplay in the first 3 to 4 months of 2025. At least that's what they're saying. They kind of, that's one of them, you know, if you extract what they're saying, this is what you get. So hacking gameplay before May 2025. That's what I'm assuming that means. And then they kind of said there's another one coming at IAE, but they didn't release it. They didn't reveal what it's going to be, but I think it's going to be the medical terrapin, and I think it's going to have a tier 2 bed. I think it's going to be a $230, $240 ship, and it'll be just literally you walk into it, instead of that seat that it had for the scanning or the radar. It'll have a tier 2 bed, and then it'll have all the accoutrements of a medical ship. I don't think it'll have a bed it might have a recovery bed in it. So it'll still be like a 1 to 2 person ship. And here's why I think it could have either one. If it's only gonna have 1 bed, right? So think about the cost of ships, right? You can get a tier 1 medical bed plus other medical beds. You can get 2 tier 1 medical beds for $275, right? If I pay $275, I can get a 2 tier 1 medical beds inside of an Apollo. Actually, no, for $250. $250 I can get 2 tier 1 medical beds inside of an Apollo. Much larger ship, mind you, but I can get 2 tier 1 beds inside of an Apollo triage. The medevac is where you're paying $275. So $250. Now, the price of that might go up, but you can see my point, right? If I can get 2 tier 1s for $250, why would I pay $220, $230, which it might keep the same price. I hope it actually does keep the same price. Or maybe you could do $10 more for the medical variant, whatever, $230. But I think at $220, it's worth its price, and now it's officially not overpriced. I would say it's a tier 1 medical bed because I'm only paying $20 or $30 cheaper, and then I get that tier 1 medical bed. Plus, and here's why you would buy the Terrapin rather than the Apollo, a crap ton of armor. A crap ton of armor. Imagine having a super armored medical vehicle where it's like, you know you're gonna be safe in this thing. You know you're gonna be safe in it. So a tier 1 medical bed is what I think it will actually have, and I think it'll be a tier 1 medical bed that can cure anything, and it'll just be a tank, like a tanky healer. I think it'll be the vehicle of choice for the healer class. I think they'll most likely bring 2 Terrapins instead of bringing 1 Apollo. If all their Apollo was going to have was 2 tier 1 beds. But if they plan on serving more people, then they'll probably bring the Apollo, because then it'll probably have tier 2 beds and below. But I think they'll just have one person bring a Terrapin for the tier 1 bed stuff, and then you just go directly there, and then everything else will be tier 2, multiple tier 2s and below. That's kind of the way I would see it, the way I would do it. Anyway, medical Terrapin, I think that's coming at IAE. I'm hoping for a tier 1 bed. I think tier 1 bed makes the most sense. But let's keep going. The vehicles that they released outside of the pre-release announcements, right? So I just want to go and talk about, remember they did the whole yellow thing, yellow blurred background thing. They had the Sulian was in there, the Storm AA, the Cutter Rambler, the F7A, F7C Mark II, the F7A Mark I, the Santok Yai, the Firebird, the Peregrine, and the Atlas or ATLS, whichever way you say it. Now, the next ones, right? So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna talk about what I think each one of these vehicles are, and I'll put the picture up to which one. I'm gonna talk about them in the way that they showed them, so you can just watch the whole video and you'll see what I think they'll be. These are the vehicles that they announced. They said they're not guaranteed to deliver before 2026. So they said these are the ones that are getting work in the next 12 months. I want to be very clear about that. They did not say they will deliver all 12 of these in the next 12 months. They said 12 to 18 months. So that means, and they also said these are vehicles getting work in the next 12 to 18 months. They did not say deliver. So be very careful when you're watching CIG. What are the words that they're actually saying, right? Because they've switched it. So last year there was kind of a promise, like not a promise, but like more of a like, these will all be out in the next 12 months. Now they're saying in the next 12 to 18 months, we will work on these, which is, I like them doing that better because then you can't have expectations about what you'll get. So what I will say is I think we will get all of these before CitizenCon 2026. That's as good as I'm willing to believe. All right, so first one, put it up there. I think this one is the CVS or the CSV FM. I think they're obviously going to work on that. They kind of said so earlier. It looks like the CSV FM, and I think it'll be the construction variant. And we'll get that. It just makes sense because they're working on base building. We know that base building's coming. I think that's one we'll get with base building. Then this is the one that kind of looks like it has a plow on it. I'm thinking that it'll be an Atlas level vehicle. I think it'll be an Atlas level vehicle. So I'm thinking, I think it has a gun on it. I think this will be like I don't want to say bulldozer, because I think whatever that thing is on the back of it. But I think it'll be maybe like a ramming vehicle or something, something different, like a unique vehicle that we haven't seen before. I would love for it to be a ramming vehicle where you can kind of like, not necessarily ram like you ram to hit, but you ram to scoop up and flip other vehicles on their bottom, right? So like if this thing gets close enough to, let's say everything smaller than a tank, it can just lift the vehicle up and flip it on its back. So now instead of having to destroy it, you just flip it over. And that could be a whole new level of gameplay. So I would love to see it be a vehicle like that, where it just has this kind of plow thing that lifts a vehicle up, scoops it, and turns it around. Kind of like those, I don't know if you've ever seen those Robot Wars video where people are building, in real life, they build robots and then they have them fight each other. I think it was called Robot Wars. But anyway, in that, the things are going against each other, and if you ever pay attention to those videos, they have some that just scoop the opponent up and either toss it or put it on its back so that they lose the fight. So it's pretty cool. I hope that's what that one is. Let's go to the next one. This one is 3. I think this will be another construction vehicle, and I think that it'll be the one. So if the CSV can do 2 medium drones, I think this will either have 2 large drones or it will have 4 medium drones. And I'm thinking 2 large drones. But if we're going with the way that they're doing things, it makes more sense for it to have 4 medium drones, because I don't think they want a vehicle that can do that much construction. So I'm gonna say it's gonna have 4 medium drones. That's the most likely. But I do think it's that one construction vehicle that they mentioned. So I'll put a picture up here of the construction vehicle that Todd Pappy mentioned, because I think that's what it is. That's what I'm hoping it is anyway. Or actually, this is the Atlas platform one. So that other one that I mentioned, I think that might be more Ursa sized than Atlas. I think this is the one that's kind of the Atlas platform level. And I think it'll have some weird thing where it can do its job, but maybe it's super long, so you can only bring it in certain ships. Like maybe you need like a C2 or something to bring it along. I don't know. But that's my first thought process, that maybe you'll need a very big vehicle to bring that. We talked about the Argo medium construction vehicle and how that will most likely have like 4 medium drones in it rather than having like 2 large, even though I think 2 large would make a little bit more sense. But maybe they'll have like a smaller ship or something that'll have the large the large ones in it, or maybe just one large in it, just to have like a full, a more filled out range for construction vehicles. But that might not come till way later. Right now, we have something that can do small, we have something that can do medium, we have something that can do large, and we have something that can do extra large. That's all bases covered, and we'll talk about whatever might be coming later. Again, I'll be putting the ships that I'm talking about up here. I'm going in the order that they talked about them in the video, though. So then we have this one, which I think is the F7CS Ghost. So that's just based on the top of the silhouette. Then we have this one, which is the F7CR Tracker. I think that's going to be the Mark II version of that, and that's also based on the top. It could be some new version. I don't know. But I just think Ghost and Tracker coming first, because I think those were the two most popular variants outside of the Super Hornet. I think those two variants coming first would make sense. This next one I think is the Medical Terrapin, just because when they showed the video, if you watch that video at the end where they had already pretty much talked about everything, they did a video where they showed like the interior and exterior of a few ships, and it was very obvious that it was a Medical Terrapin in there. They showed it being the Terrapin, and then they immediately went to a medical interior. So it's obvious that's the Medical Terrapin, and they also didn't announce when they were working on that one. I do think outside of base building, before they release 1.0, they have to nail down Death of a Spaceman. So I do think, and here's a take for people who watched all of these videos, you're probably not gonna get this take anywhere else as far as what, I think. I think medical gameplay is the next major loop after base building. And I think the reason they did base building first is because medical gameplay is going to also require some of the same things that go with base building, because you're gonna need certain crafted materials, you're gonna need certain medicines. I think it's gonna be very deep. The medical gameplay is gonna be very deep, because I think they're gonna start allowing you to put, alternative parts on, which is like mech parts, like you can get, a cybernetic arm and stuff like that. I think that's what's coming next. So I think look out for CitizenCon 2025. I'm guessing it's gonna be heavy on the Death of a Spaceman, very heavy on the Death of a Spaceman, because they have to get that figured out before 2026. And I think that's what we're gonna see. It's gonna be medical gameplay, and well, I'll give my other take of what else I think will be a little bit later, but that's what I think is coming, because Medical Terrapin, right? But wait till you hear my next ones. Ship 7, that I think is going to be a medium combat ship. It is not the Mirai Guardian. The Mirai Guardian is already scheduled to be done before the end of this month, or before the end of this year, so why would they put it behind a smoke screen if they already said we're going to do that before the end of the year? These are supposed to be ships that we know for a fact, or that we don't know yet. We either don't know they exist, or they haven't been announced yet, or they have been announced but we don't know that they're working on it. So it wouldn't fit if this was the Mirai Guardian. Let me tell you what I think it is. I thought it was the Mirai Guardian because kind of, if you look, it looks like it has 4 of those little things. But what I actually think it is, I think it's going to be one of those boarding ships from the Vandal. I actually think this will be a Vandal boarding ship, or it'll be one of those Vandal ships that we saw in the Squadron 42 trailer. I think this will be an alien ship, because none of these other ships look like they're like uniquely alien ships, except one, which I'll talk about. But I think that's going to be an alien ship. And it would make sense for them to just throw at least one alien ship in there. It just makes sense. Like, think about it. Why wouldn't they have at least one alien ship that they work on? Yeah, but there it is. There it is. All right. So that's what I think this ship is. Let's go to the next one. I think this is going to be a 2-person mining ship, somewhere between the Prospector and the Mole. It also could be a 2-person salvage ship, but whatever it is, that looks like a mining head to me. It doesn't look like a salvage head, but it could be like one of the salvage straw things. But it's either, I think, I'm going to go with mining ship between the Prospector and the Mole, like a 2-person mining ship, because I think the Mole technically requires 3 people and the Prospector is 1. So I think a 2-person mining ship, maybe with 2 mining heads where you both can operate it from the seat. I think that would be a really cool, interesting way. And maybe it's a refinery ship as well. Maybe it's like the only one that can do like, you know, maybe it can't carry as much as the mole, but it has the refinery in it, so to make up for the fact that it can't carry as much. That would be interesting to me. I would certainly like that more than the mole, because I think the mole needs two things. It needs for at least, I think the pilot should be able to operate at least one mining laser, and I think it should have a size higher from the lasers that I have. But you can go check out my mole review, and I kind of talk about all of that. They specifically show two people next to it. That's why I think it's going to be a two-person mining ship. It has a mining head. I think that's a mining head. I don't think it's a salvage head. And that could be the Misfortune. And I would say it would fit that name if it can ore and refine. If it can ore, if it can mine and refine, I think it would fit that name of Misfortune, because I think you would make a lot of money being able to immediately mine and refine stuff. However, they do have to make it a little bit worse than the mole, so my guess is it won't be able to carry much. So I don't remember how many SCU the Prospector can carry, but I think it'll be more than that, and I think it'll be substantially less than the mole, but I do think it'll be ore mining and refining. That's what I think it is. I don't know if anybody else is guessing that, but I think that's what it'll be. Ship 9. This should be the 9th ship, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is the Zeus MR. I don't think a lot of people are saying that. Maybe it's very obvious that it's not the Zeus MR, but it just makes sense that it would be the Zeus MR. The way the Zeus sold this year, the way that they were super heavy on the Zeus marketing, even the bomber jacket being a Zeus, I think that's the Zeus MR. I thought it was the Crusader Intrepid, but again, same logic as the last time. Why would they put the Crusader Intrepid behind one of these things, especially if they said it's coming before the end of the year? I think this is where they're revealing new ships that they haven't talked about, and also announcing that they're going to be making these ships, even if they were previously talked about, and kind of saying, hey, these are in gray box now, or whatever. Or these are in active development, not gray box. Yeah. All right, so there's a few more. I think this next one, this looks like a TIE Star Cruiser. So if you ever seen a TIE Star Cruiser, it's not a direct one-to-one, because that thing kind of looks like a bus, but that's the closest ship I could find, right? And what I think this is going to be is, I actually think it's going to be either it's going to be a unique manufacturer, because I can't quite call the manufacturer, but I think it'll be a unique manufacturer, as in like not a manufacturer that gets a lot of vehicles out. So maybe Consolidated Outland or something like that. And they'll be, or maybe Kruger. I could see Kruger doing something crazy. But like, I think it'll be a very unique manufacturer that makes it. And I think it'll be like an Ares competitor, except it'll be smaller. So I think it'll be like a ship with a really giant gun on the front, and it'll be a size 5 instead of a size 7. And I think it'll also be faster than the Ares and more maneuverable than the Ares. So it's gonna be like this unique, like, got a gun on it ship where it's like, it can fly super fast, but it's just got the one gun, and if it lines you up right, you're done. Like the Ares, but for smaller ships. Like the Ares, I think, is kind of meant to go subcap. I don't think the Ares, I know people have said in my comments that the Ares is supposed to take capitals. It is not. It is too slow. I mean, it might even say that, but it's too slow for it. It'll get destroyed. It doesn't move like a fighter. If it moved like a fighter a little bit more, I might believe that. But I just don't get that. I get it as being a sub-capital hunter. So maybe, a ship with a lot of large components and stuff like that, but I don't see it as a capital hunter. I think most capital ships will be able to deal with an Ares fairly easily. However, I think if this thing is what I think it is, and it has like a big gun on the front, I could see this being a massive hit, because it's uniquely shaped. It looks like it has two weapons on the wings. And it looks like it has an interior to it, so it's not like the Ares in that way. But at the same time, if it's shaped this way, it looks a little bit more blocky, so maybe it doesn't have like the speed of the air. Maybe it's not the fastest ship, or maybe it's not the most maneuverable ship, but I think it's gonna pick a lane with one of those, and it'll either be super maneuverable or super fast in a straight line. And it'll have like a big size 5 gun on it. Now, that doesn't mean that that's all it'll have. It could have some other alternate thing that it does, right? Maybe it's a mech related ship, because I had this really cool idea. What if this was a ship where you got a combat mech, right? And you could walk the combat mech onto the ship. You could walk the combat mech onto the ship, and it becomes part of the ship, and then you could fly the ship off. But the ship does not work without the combat mech inside of it. Because this looks like it's the perfect size for something like that. And then when you land the ship, you have a combat mech already ready to go. Like, that is like a really cool idea I had. I didn't get that from anybody. So if that's what it ends up being, I know I talked to a lot of developers. I didn't get that from anybody. That's just an idea that I thought of. I can imagine this being a mech holder ship where you walk your mech onto it, it becomes part of the ship, and it has a really big gun on it, but that's all it has. And then you fly it from inside the mech suit, and then you could walk off inside the mech suit and then just go about your business with like a big, just flat ramp that comes down like this. I could see that happening. Or maybe like it has a little bit of an interior to where you can get out of the mech suit and leave the mech suit inside of it and then kind of walk up and go to everything. And then maybe the mech suit has like 2 size 1 weapons or something on it. I don't know. I thought it was a cool idea. You let me know what you think. I think that's a unique idea. All right, then this one, I think this one, or wait, it would be this one. I said it wrong. It's over here. It should be over here. I think this is the RSI Apollo. I think, like I said, I think the medical gameplay, Death of a Spaceman, will be heavy talk at the next, especially considering how little they talked about it this year. I think they finally figured it out, and I think that's what they're going to be working on this year. Especially considering, think about what's been happening. They put 2 small med beds inside of the Starlancer TAC, which 2 small med beds in a ship, they just don't do that often. So I think the Polaris is getting 2 small med beds. I don't know if it'll be tier 3 or tier 2. It would make sense to me if one was a tier 2 and one was a tier 3. That would make sense to me for a capital ship, but who knows? But yeah, I think the RSI Apollo, we're gonna get at least 1 variant of that this year, maybe both. And that's because Death of a Spaceman is coming. And then the Starlancer build is this next one. So this one should be the Starlancer build, because they definitely showed us the interior. They showed us very in depth the interior of the MAX and I think the TAC. But the build, they only showed a little bit of it. They didn't go quite in as much depth, and they didn't make it available for sale. I do think it'll be available for sale for IAE, but we'll see. The Perseus, this next one, that's the Perseus. I know a lot of you have been waiting for that one, so that's exciting. I'm waiting for it too. I have a Perseus. I have, since CitizenCon happened, I do think I've kind of changed my thought process on what the Perseus and the Polaris upgun will be. So I do think it will just be a size 7 gun. I think it'll be a size 7 dual turret. I know that there's leaks that say otherwise, but the fact that they didn't confirm it at CitizenCon, I just, maybe not. Maybe somebody else has found a place where they confirmed that size 6 thing, but I think it'll be just a dual size 7 turret, because it did say it's supposed to have better ability to fight ships its size or capital ships, but it didn't say it would necessarily be able to take them on and like destroy them. But I think just to keep up with them, it can still have the same size turret as the Perseus. Now, what I hope for is for at least a triple turret, a triple size 7 turret. I don't think that would be absolutely insane. I think that is still within the realm of possibility. I would love for it to have a unique triple turret where it's the only triple turret in the game. I think that would, you know, a shout out to the Polaris owners. I think that would be pretty cool. All right, but yeah, anyway, the Perseus is coming. Gavin Rothery, ladies and gentlemen, That's the one right there. That's the one where be prepared for that one to really sell. That one, especially when it releases, I think that's going to be one of the highest selling ships of Star Citizen history. I think it's going to rival the Carrack and all those other things. So get prepared. All right, next ship. That one's the Ironclad, folks. I think that is the Ironclad, and I think we're getting it this year. And if we're getting the Ironclad this year, well, not this year, in the next 12 to 18 months, what I think they're going to be working on the Kraken after that. I think CitizenCon 2026, they will release the Kraken. Either CitizenCon, between CitizenCon and IAE, I think they will release the Kraken. So you heard it here first, folks. Kraken 2026. from the same guy who brought you the great takes of the Banu Merchantman will be released well, the Banu Merchantman will get a surprise update in Alien Week. And I think I said the craziest thing is the Banu Merchantman is complete, and they just walk out and said that. Now that I've actually gained some more experience into the way CIG develops ships and talked to some developers, I now know that those things were absolutely crazy to say. But I knew they were crazy when I said them, so it's not like I didn't know that already. I just kind of, I like to stir the pot just a little bit. So now what I will say is I don't think the Banu Merchantman's coming anytime soon. I don't think they're even thinking about shop gameplay right now. Not in a heavy way, anyway. If it did come, I would say maybe 2027 is the earliest we would see it. But yeah, I think the Ironclad, if they bring the Ironclad this year, I think that's going to give them enough to start talking about what the Caterpillar will have as far as modules. I think we'll start to see them talk about the Caterpillar modules right before the release of the Ironclad, because then they're going to say we're using this work to finish up the Ironclad. I also think that what we will see is the Ironclad be like set the overall design language for Drake, because I think its design language is kind of like this built from, scrap heap type of ship, but I don't think that's initially what it's supposed to be. I do think it's supposed to be easy to repair, but I don't think it's necessarily bottom of the trash heap easy to repair. So and then John Crew made this really interesting statement. He said something, he was talking about the last time he was talking about what Drake, he was talking about a Drake ship, and he was like, I think it was during the Ironclad video, he was saying something like what it'll have whatever design aesthetic that people think Drake is supposed to have. And I'm like, I think he's kind of hinting that they haven't really determined what Drake's aesthetic is going to be. So I think the Ironclad is going to be that's when they're going to finally nail it down. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see an ISC where it says the Drake aesthetic is this, boom, boom, boom. Now, I know they've made videos like that before, but I think they've kind of nailed it down to what the final Drake aesthetic will be. And that's why I think the Ironclad's going to be a huge one. And then this last one, the last ship, that's the Pioneer. It seems pretty obvious. And they said 12 to 18 months, so I would expect this one to be the very last ship they work on. I think the Perseus, Ironclad, and Pioneer are going to be kind of at the end of that. The RSI Apollo, I think, will be maybe around CitizenCon or at CitizenCon next year. I think the Perseus will be around CitizenCon, at CitizenCon next year. I think the Perseus would be Invictus next year, but we'll see. If we have an ISC about it, I think it'll be Invictus next year. But it's a bigger ship, so it could be as late as IAE. I'm trying to think what else would they put there. They could do the Zeus MR and that medium combat ship that I mentioned earlier, that medium like Vandal combat ship. But that, not for Invictus, that wouldn't really make sense, I guess. So I could see them doing like the medical Terrapin and the F7Cs, but I think the F7Cs actually might be at IAE. Those might be surprises for IAE. So IAE this year. So yeah, I don't know. It's a little hard to predict right now, but I'm gonna say Perseus. Yeah, I'll just say Perseus just to be safe, just looking at their schedule. I'd say Perseus at IAE next year. And Ironclad probably at CitizenCon. Yeah, I'll say Ironclad at CitizenCon next year. Yeah. And I think the Apollo will come at CitizenCon because I think medical gameplay is going to be the next big gameplay button that they're going to press. Because I think 2025 will be the year of Death of a Spaceman. I think they have to get that figured out before they can do 1.0. And because of their lack of talking about it this year, they didn't go into it at all. Like, they barely even mentioned medical stuff at this CitizenCon. I'm thinking next year it's gonna have a very big chunk of CitizenCon. Yeah, stars are my destination is the next section. So we've talked about pretty much everything to do with ships, I think. Those are my predictions. So this is where I'll cut the video for the people who are watching like the long edition. This will just be like, you know, a pause. All right.